Hello and welcome to the Mighty Oaks Show. This is a special edition. We are broadcasting live, at least right now it's live, from the 9th Annual Mighty Oaks Gala.
That's right.
In the Woodlands, Texas.
The Woodlands, Texas.
Woodlands, Texas.
Waterway Marriott, awesome hotel. You're looking sharp.
You're looking great too. Show me the inside of your jacket while we get started here.
Look at that.
The American flag right on the inside. Right on the inside.
Yeah,
I like to,
right.
People always ask me if I have a Marine Corps tattoo. I like to say it's tattooed on my heart.
And some Mighty Oaks.
I believe it's more internal, but you wear it on the outside. That's fine. That's fine too. So this is a big night for us. This is the one big gala we do every year. We do it here in the Woodlands. People may ask why. This is really where Mighty Oaks was.
It's ground zero. Yeah. Not only Texas, but the Woodlands, Texas.
Yeah.
It's where I became the first Mighty Oaks student.
Sure.
And as we always talk about, and Kathy challenged me, and Steve Toth stepped in and mentored me, and I stepped into a radical encounter with Christ to change the trajectory of my life, and the desire was put on me. I believe God put that burden on me to share that with others. Yeah. And the very first thing we did, because we were like, one, we're not even quite sure what we're going to do, but we're going to call it Mighty Oaks. Right. And we're going to pay forward what was done for me to others. We're not quite sure how we're going to do it, and we definitely don't know how we're going to pay for it. Right. So the first thing we need to do is throw a fundraiser, and hopefully some people could believe in this too. And so the first thing we did was through this Mighty Oaks Warriors Gala. And that's why, even though it's been the very first event that we ever have done was this event. Yeah, it's funny. The gala leads the number of years of Mighty Oaks. It leads the number of years of Mighty Oaks, but I mean, I look back and it made sense to me at the time, but the fact that other people got around me and believed in that calling that God had put in my heart, and believed in that mission, and actually financially supported us without any evidence of we hadn't served anyone yet. Right. It's just amazing. It's amazing to me. Yeah. And so this event, because of that, is just so special to me that people every year continue to believe in us for the upcoming year. Yeah. Just like they did that first year, and believe in us supporting those warriors and their families that we're going to serve. And now we have some evidence. So we're going to talk about some of that tonight, some of the numbers. Yeah. If you want to. Yeah, go ahead. Write them down. Well, we're at 3,090 graduates from our legacy program. Right. That's an incredible number to me. And then in 2020, we're going to be serving another 850 more warriors in our legacy program. Yeah, on the resiliency side, we've spoken to over 130,000 active duty troops at bases around the world. In 2020, we got a big target because it's such a demand there. 30,000 more that we plan on addressing and speaking to. Yeah. And then resources, we've distributed over 90,000 resources and books. So incredible. Yeah, when we think about the beginning, and I know early Mighty Oaks, it was almost begging people to attend. Yeah. Just trying to get them to come. How many people do I know in the military get to come to Mighty Oaks? And now we have, the applications, we have 1,585 applications for people to come to Mighty Oaks. It's crazy to see what has happened. One of the interesting things to me every year too is how things come back around. Steve Toth was your mentor in the very beginning. Yeah. He's now the chairman of our board. Tonight, he'll give the greeting and open in prayer and kind of get things started. And it's just amazing some of the people that have kind of stuck with Mighty Oaks and the vision for this many years and continue. You said Mel and Ernie Carr, who helped. They were checking people in for tickets and doing the auction for us and volunteering. And tonight I was so happy because we got them to be VIP guests. Right. They just get to come here and enjoy it and attend. And so it's been such a just blessing to people that's came around us along the throughout the years to make this happen. Yeah. And great guest tonight. We got Chad Prather from the Chad Prather Show from the Blaze coming to MC. Yep. Congressman Dan Crenshaw is going to be our keynote speaker. And we got a testimony from one of our own on our staff members, Robert Kale. Yep. So it's going to be a great night. Yeah, it's going to be a great night. And look forward to getting more information and more content and some video and some other things out in the coming days. But excited about what's happening. Well, it's an honor to have our special guest for the gala this evening, Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Your schedule is insane.
Oh,
And you still decided you'd be with us. Yeah, you're not only doing events like this, but you're fighting for our freedom, and we appreciate that. So thank you for what you're doing and for your service, of course. A lot of folks would like to be here. This is a sold-out gala for us, which is
that's pretty cool.
We're so thankful. We have the opportunity to raise money to support veterans and those who are serving us. But a lot of people wanted to be here. We've had people, I think, even today asking for tickets.
Wow.
The sold-out thing doesn't mean anything to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we try to communicate
They're
that.
like, we could stand in the back.
Yeah, we'll stand.
Yeah.
But a lot of people would like to be here that couldn't. And for those that couldn't be here, as it relates to serving veterans and reaching out to really help those who have helped us, serve those who have served us, what's a message that you would convey, maybe tonight or maybe to those listening that couldn't be here?
One thing I'm going to get into tonight is a sense of purpose. The military gives you a sense of mission, which is a little bit different than a sense of purpose. I think people confuse the two things, but it's easy to find, it's easy to understand your sense of purpose when you're in the military because they're giving you a mission, right? They're giving you orders, they're giving you a target. And it's really hard when veterans transition away from that. I think if we're trying to narrow down like what the problems are in the veteran community, why we have 22 suicides a day, it's when you're committing suicide, it's because you've lost a sense of purpose. Right. I'm not sure what other reason there would be, right. And it's hard to find that. And how do you make sure we don't go down that path? Life was harder when you were active duty, objectively speaking, in the sense of what kind of dangers you're facing, time away from family, and yet when you leave those hardships, despair sets in. So what's going on there? It's not an easy problem to solve. I don't like it when politicians say, hey, we're just going to solve this. How are you going to solve it, Elizabeth Warren? Right. Not calling anybody out or anything, but somebody recently, somebody recently promised to solve that, and that's really disingenuous, it's really dishonest. I do not claim to have a solution for this. You're not going to lock everybody up and take away their guns. That's right. And well, at least I'm not going to.
There's some that would recommend that.
Yeah, but that's not the solution, and because in the end, this is a choice. And how do we give people a different choice? And so what I get at is transition. The transition process needs to start earlier. There's legislation, by the way, that is looking at this. This is all bipartisan too. That's the wonderful thing about Veterans Affairs, generally speaking. It's usually bipartisan, and we're just trying to find what works. And I think just helping veterans find that next mission and that next purpose, so that they don't feel that sense of despair, I think is the most important thing we can do.
Yeah. When you have, and I'm sure as you travel the country, you meet with a lot of veterans. And I'm guessing because of the work that we do, I know this happens to us, you have a mom, a dad, a spouse, a husband or a wife pull you aside and say, the person I care for who has served is struggling so badly right now, will you sit down and talk to them? When you have someone like that sitting across the table from you, or maybe standing in a line off to the side, during that moment of hopelessness, what is the one thing you try to communicate to them?
I got asked this question by Marcus Luttrell on his podcast. It's the Never Quit podcast, and his question was similar. I think it's the same question, which is what is your never quit response? Sure. Because you're really saying the same thing. Yep. You're struggling. How do you not quit? Right. That's the question we're trying to answer, and it is related to purpose. But it's telling them that they have a purpose. They wouldn't be alive if they didn't have a purpose.
That's right.
And they owe it to their community or their family or their friends. And if they don't even have any of that, they owe it to humanity to continue serving that purpose. And it could be very small. Yeah. Right? It could be really small accomplishments every single day. But eventually that might lead into, running for Congress. Sure. Right? So you do have that. God has you here for a reason, and you owe it to your fellow man to, and also, I think you owe it to those veterans that we all know who we've lost. You owe it to their sacrifice to keep going. Yes. It is a disservice to their memory because you know what? They would do anything to be here. That's right. They would sacrifice again, but they would also do anything to be here. Yep. They didn't want to be sacrificed. And I think we all owe it to them to continue strong and to continue pushing through the pain and suffering and whatever that is, whatever's going on in your head, because and either seek out help or push through it and find that purpose, because there's a little bit of that every day that I think you can find.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Looking forward to a great event tonight, and we've got a lot of folks out there who really do want to support those who have served and are serving. And thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing, what you continue to do, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Hey, love to be here. Thank you.
I want to introduce you to someone who is a very, just someone who's a true blessing, not only to the state of Texas, but to the United States of America, a man that really needs no introduction whatsoever. The distinguished gentleman from the House of Representatives, the 2nd District of Texas, would you please make welcome Congressman Dan Crenshaw.
Thank you. Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. Hello. Nice to see you guys. You having a good time tonight? How's Chad been? Has he been a good MC? Why'd you say no? Somebody over here said no. Oh, it's because he's not wearing his boots tonight. Chad! I'm giving him so much. He's a friend. How far? Thank you for being here for this amazing event and such a great cause. Can't tell you how much people like me appreciate it and how much our veterans appreciate it. And again, I hope you're having a great time. One reason I'm here, really the only reason I'm here, I had a path here. And that path happened 7 years ago when I woke up in Afghanistan. I woke up in Afghanistan. I could see Afghans all around me. I could see piles of weapons around me. I actually saw an Afghan villager sitting right next to me. But here's the thing, I wasn't in Afghanistan. I was actually in Germany. I was in a hospital in Germany. About 5-6 days earlier, I'd been hit by an IED blast in Afghanistan in Helmand province. And that blast blinded me, hit me kind of like getting hit by a truck full of rednecks shooting you with shotguns while also pouring Tabasco sauce all over your body. That's sort of what it feels like to get hit by an IED. And that's where I was. That's what I woke up into. The reason I was still seeing Afghanistan was because my optic nerve was still firing. And that's what I saw. I saw the last thing, I saw my last experience because I was blind. My right eye was gone. That wasn't coming back. My left eye maybe had a chance of seeing again, but for the moment, I was totally blind. And it was weird. I knew I wasn't in Afghanistan, and I knew I was in Germany. I knew I was in a U.S. hospital, but I couldn't see it. And I'll never forget that. And they told me, there's a small chance you'll see again. Kind of like Lloyd Christmas in, why am I forgetting the movie right now? Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance, and I believed that with all my heart. I believed that my purpose was still to be a Navy SEAL. I believed my purpose, my mission was still to go back and see my platoon and continue the fight. I was wrong. My mission did change. It took me about 4 years to figure that out because I fought the Navy tooth and nail to actually stay in and continue deploying, and eventually lost that battle. I did get to deploy twice more, not in combat, not back with my fellow teammates in the platoon level, but I did get to go back overseas, and eventually the Navy figured out that I couldn't see very well and that I should go, I guess, be a politician. So my story is unique, but that journey out of the military isn't that unique. Last year when I was elected, more than 150 veterans ran for Congress. More than 75 were actually elected, and 15 were elected to their first term. There's actually 15 veterans in our freshman class. Still at an all-time low in our nation's history, but there nonetheless. And next thing I knew, I was at the center of a political firestorm. It first started with Saturday Night Live. It's the only reason you guys know me. Let's be honest. And then in Congress, where we've had a really interesting 10 months. It just gets more interesting every day. We make a lot of noise up there, but not a lot of sense. It's kind of like a group of 19-year-old Marines who were out on liberty. You guys want to hear a story from Saturday Night Live? Okay. So Saturday night rolls around. We've been working on this since Friday night. You fly up there Friday night if you're going to be on Saturday Night Live, just in case any of you happen to be up there. This is how it goes. So you go and you get the script Friday night and you start practicing. You go through it, see if it really works for you. Go through some dry runs, and Saturday night rolls around. First you do a live audience, but it's not recorded. So what they're doing late in the evening of Saturday night is they're testing the jokes. They're seeing how normal people react. And then they change the jokes in the next couple hours in case they don't get a good response. And so we go through it. It starts really late, like I think 11 p.m. And everybody's wondering if I'm super nervous because every time a politician goes on SNL, they suck. But I'm like, obviously I'm not going to suck because I'm a Navy SEAL. Not in the Air Force. I know. I made a lot of friends, and then I made a lot of enemies, like all at once. Don't worry, I've got more Air Force jokes. They're going to keep coming throughout the night. Sorry, I'm not sorry. Love you guys. And so it goes well. Obviously, we get it done. I wasn't that nervous because I'm just reading the script. You know, I'm like, hey, I've been on the news before where, you know, news hosts are trying to get you and trying to ask you a question you didn't expect. That's actually tough because that's on live TV and you can get embarrassed. Saturday Night Live is not that hard. You just have to have a good time and read the script. And that's what we did. Turned out pretty well. We finished up, and then I just get to watch the rest of the show. And that's a pretty cool experience in and of itself because you're just behind the scenes there watching, I think it was Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne was performing, Halsey was performing. You know, they actually had some pretty good skits that night. Robert De Niro was in the room next to me, which was a little weird because he's turned out to be kind of a jerk. I could hear what he was watching next door the whole time. Does anybody guess what that is? It was Rachel Maddow. Is she not popular in this room? So we finish up, and there was another guy behind the scenes, somebody you might know named Steven Spielberg. And he's a fan of the show, so he happened to be in New York at that time, and they have a little VIP section for him where he drinks fine wines and cheeses and things. And so I got to hang out with him for a little bit. And he gave me a pretty cool compliment. He said, Dan, you've got great comedic timing, and if you wanted, you know, a future in Hollywood. I was like, oh, thank you very much. That's a pretty cool compliment coming from the Steven Spielberg. But here was the problem with that moment, which was that nobody heard it. It was just me and him. And this story would be questionable if it was just me and him. And so my wife, Tara, was standing across the stage, and I motioned for her to come over. And I asked Mr. Spielberg to repeat what he had just said. And he's like, well, this is a little bit awkward. I was like, okay, fine, but just repeat it so that she could hear it. And now it can never be denied that I was given this compliment by Steven Spielberg. All right. All of that story is 100% true. And I promise you the next 30 seconds is also true. So me and Steven Spielberg have been working on a movie ever since. That's right. And we were talking about what to do. You know, we had this discussion. I said, Stephen, we have to make films together. And he said, yes, of course, Daniel. But they must be woke and liberal and progressive. I said, yes, of course, Mr. Spielberg. How else are we going to win an Oscar? And we've been working on a great woke, liberal, progressive movie ever since. It is a remake of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it's the Green New Deal edition. So it's just called Trains. Solar, wind-operated trains. Totally true. All right. So you're here because, you know, you believe in mission and you believe in helping veterans. And one of our most important missions in Congress at the federal level is ensuring that our support system for veterans is in accordance with those values that we all agree on. We've made some progress on that. Last session, we passed the Mission Act. This session, we're looking at the Modernizing VA Records Management Program. Allows for digital copies of files, so paper copies don't have to be resubmitted. If you're a veteran, you've had to deal with that. That's annoying. How many trees have we killed just to get our medical records? My medical records are 1,200 pages, just to tell you how awesome I am. That's why it takes 1,200 pages. A lot of you veterans probably understand what I'm talking about. We have one called the TBI and PTS Treatment Act. Allows for the use of hyperbaric oxygen therapy for veterans. I personally know, I haven't tried this, I'm looking to try it, but I know a lot of my brothers in the special operations community have had leaps and bounds in progress because of hyperbaric chambers. Getting the VA to use that is incredible. The PAWS Act provides grants for veterans to train and keep service dogs. These are just a few of the things that are happening in Congress. And luckily, working for veterans is still a bipartisan issue, and I'm proud to say that. We always say as Americans, quote, taking care of our veterans. It's so important to us. It's something we hear a lot. And for good reason, of course. But we also have to make sure that our programs we invest in are putting veterans on a path to take care of themselves. That should be the actual goal. The goal isn't coddling or dependency. The goal is a path to self-fulfillment. One problem our country faces is the veteran suicide rate. It's estimated to be 22 a day. And it's heartbreaking. But what's causing it? How do we stop it? We can't lock every veteran up. At least I don't want to. But how do we stop it? Well, it's purpose, or really a lack of purpose. When you leave the military, you're leaving a place that gave you a sense of mission and therefore a sense of purpose. Having a lack of purpose in this life is devastating. It's like living in a nightmare. I think that's what happens. I don't know for sure. I can't get inside the head. One of the hardest things about this problem, people will come to me, fellow veterans will come to me, and they'll say, I've lost 5 friends to suicide. What are you going to do about it? And I ask them, I mean, you knew them. They were your friends, and you couldn't stop them. I'm not sure what government can do, and I'd be lying to you if I did tell you that I knew what government could do. Politicians will lie to you about this. They're happy to do it. I recently heard Elizabeth Warren say she's just going to solve the problem. She's got a plan. You've got a plan to make people choose not to kill themselves? You know, it's so dishonest, and it's disgustingly dishonest. It makes me sick. I will not lie to you like that. I wish I had a plan to make somebody choose something different. I have some ideas because I understand what it's like to transition. Discovering purpose is essential to veterans transitioning into the civilian world. A regular job that never deploys into combat zones, it seems like a dream come true for a lot of veterans at first. Might even pay better than the military, probably does. But then it hits you. You're no longer deploying. Your teammates are no longer with you. The hardship isn't there anymore. And you thought you hated that hardship, but in fact you miss it. And there's actually good psychological research, by the way, which shows that purposeful suffering has real benefits. It makes you better, makes you stronger, more resilient. Your old friends, they text you after they get back from a grueling week in the field, complaining how tough it was, complaining about their wet socks, if they're SEALs, because we always complain about wet socks. But you find that you're actually pretty jealous. You're jealous of their suffering. You're jealous of the fact that they shivered uncontrollably for 12 hours sitting in little boats off the coast. You're jealous of it. You wish you were there. Veterans need a reminder that the military actually never gave them purpose. The military gave you a mission, and you found a deeper sense of purpose by taking on that mission. This purpose runs deeper than just a task or a set of orders. Purpose is your reason for being alive. The military simply illuminates that purpose because it exposes you to a cause greater than yourself. It's exhilarating for many of us, and it's soul-crushing when it's gone. I find purpose in what I do now, but it wasn't easy. I felt lost. Now, leaving the military mid-career, say, a lot of us leave between, 5 and 15 years. And that means you're used to leading large teams of people and also being trusted with millions of dollars in equipment. Your responsibilities were immense. Then you quickly find that same level of responsibility is simply non-existent in the civilian world. You weren't high-ranking enough to deserve an executive position in a company, the way a lot of generals or admirals were, and you're too old to start in the mailroom. So you look for middle management and quickly find that you don't have the skills or experience in any given profession to be able to successfully jump into a middle management position. I found this to be the case even when looking for government jobs for Department of Defense, even after graduating with a master's degree from Harvard. Yeah, apparently they don't give you a job on a silver platter. Unless you graduate from the business school, then they do. And so needless to say, this can be frustrating because so many vets know that if they were just given the chance, they would learn faster than anyone else and spend twice the amount of time getting it right. My first day in politics was the day I ran for Congress, and I seemed to figure it out okay, didn't I? Yeah. You can say yes. Geez, guys. A lot of skeptics. So not every veteran is going to run for Congress, but everybody's going to look for a livelihood after service. They're a bit older than some hires. They're a bit more experienced. And I hear we're a bit more direct, maybe a bit more abrasive, and maybe a bit impatient. But there are some benefits to hiring veterans. So what do you get? What do employers get when they hire veterans? I think vets embody the American grit, cultural values that made our country great. Most of us, anyway. Air Force is a little soft, but we still love them. Big fans of dunking on the Air Force back there. That's the American way. And if they don't prove themselves to be that way, then by all means, hold them accountable for it. Let me give you some examples. Time management. When I left the military and I did my master's degree at Harvard, I couldn't help but notice how late everybody always was to class. It was ridiculous. They don't even care, these college kids. They just waltz in, I'm 5-10 minutes late. It's extremely disrespectful to the professor, but they do it anyway. They don't care. And even when they're in there, they're just like typing away on some stupid instant messenger, whatever they're doing. They're not really paying attention. I never saw veterans do that. There's a lot of veterans who go, and whether they're doing an undergrad or a master's degree. So I can see the difference, right? I can see the difference. And there's an enormous difference. Veterans actually care. We dress up nice. All right, don't wear gross clothes or whatever it is. You don't show up in a gross sweatshirt. You comb your hair, and you show up on time. That actually matters these days. That kind of detail matters, and that gets to my second point. Veterans have an attention to detail. Even the Air Force. I'm sorry, okay, I'm gonna stop dunking on the Air Force. Air Force especially has an attention to detail. When they fly planes, you need to understand what attention to detail means and how important that is. Not only are we taught to be detail-oriented, but we're taught not to cut corners. When you hire a veteran, you're hiring somebody who actually cares about the details, who cares not to cut corners, even when nobody is watching. Best compliment I ever received was working on a ranch, and I was moving rocks around. I don't know why, but it didn't matter why. The point is when the ranch owner came back and he's like, wow, you actually worked when nobody was looking. That's what a veteran will do for you. Details matter because they are details. Veterans understand that. Teamwork. You can't just be a loner in the military. It doesn't work out very well for you. Vets learn quickly how to pick up on social cues, work together, collaborate, negotiate to get the job done. Humility and willingness to take criticism and learn from mistakes are deeply valued traits in the military and should be far more important to a dynamic company than understanding, a supply chain. The supply chain can be taught. Character traits cannot. Personal responsibility. This is one of the most important things in any cultural foundation. It matters because if you're not personally responsible, you're just waiting for somebody else to be responsible for you, usually asking a politician like me to force them to be responsible for you. It's a terrible thing. It leads us on a trajectory towards a decaying society. Veterans do not embody this. I remember in BUDS and the SEAL teams, personal responsibility, avoiding being the weakest link in the team is literally beaten into us. It's literally beaten into us. The entire class gets punished viciously if one guy is late, if one guy doesn't stencil their name on their fins the correct way. The entire class gets punished. If one guy doesn't clean their room during a barracks inspection, the entire class gets punished. Personal responsibility is paramount. Veterans understand mental toughness and discipline. We are not coddled. We do not believe in snowflake culture. We hate snowflakes. Again, this is important. It's important to have this foundation for a society. If you have a bunch of mentally weak people, undisciplined people, how are you going to survive in a free market society? How are you going to survive in a place where competition is necessary to get ahead? You can't. You're not mentally tough and disciplined. Veterans are. Veterans also have a good sense of humor. It's a way to achieve that mental toughness, frankly. When things are very hard, we like humor. Let me give you a quick example of the kind of really dark, awful humor that we have in the SEAL teams. I know a guy that has a tattoo on his side. And that tattoo says, "Rest in peace." And it's rest in peace to one of his best friends who isn't dead yet. Yeah, that's dark. Imagine that. You show your friend this tattoo and he's like, "What?" Has his birthday to blank. Just keeping it warm for you, man. Yeah, that's vet humor. Veterans understand leadership. You guys have seen pictures of my glass eye. I have a trident in there, the SEAL trident. And the SEAL trident, the symbol that we wear on our chest, not always in our eye. It's weird if others wore it in their eye. I do, but it's not normal. But we wear it on our chest. And it's different than normal American symbology with the bald eagle. And I have both because I have a congressional pin. And that congressional pin also has a bald eagle on it. But that bald eagle is standing upright, proud, has its wings spread and its head straight up. The SEAL trident bald eagle does not have that. The eagle is actually, its head is lowered. It's bowing. Because the eagle is symbolizing a sense of service, a sense of humility, a sense that the leaders are there for their people, not the other way around. And when we get this beaten into us right from the beginning. When we all line up for chow at the galley, known as like a cafeteria in the Army, what do you guys call it? It's galley. It's called a galley. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Leaders always eat last, right? The officers always get in the back. You let the enlisted go first because you're there to take care of your people, and that matters. Mission-oriented. Veterans are mission-oriented. We have an intrinsic drive towards mission accomplishment, and we take pride in accomplishing it. It's about more than just a paycheck because we realize that purpose is found through accomplishment, even the smallest kind. You know, mission is important to veterans. And from the time we arrive at the Great Lakes or Fort Benning or MCRD San Diego or Lackland, we have a mission for that minute, that hour, that day. I'm sure to a certain degree we're all looking forward to the day we get our DD-214 or retirement orders. Well, we get a form and a retired ID card, but we also lose a mission when that happens. And at first it seems like freedom, but then it can feel like a prison. And a lack of mission can feel like a bottomless pit. Mission matters. It keeps veterans from falling through the cracks. And it's one of the most important things when we look at what's actually hurting our vets today and why organizations like this exist. Purpose is what matters. And you know, when I'm asked, what would I tell somebody who's struggling? I say this. I say, you have a duty, and you remember that sense of duty because you were in the military. And you have a sense of duty now to more than just the flag. It's to your family or your friends or your community. And if you've got none of those, then you have a duty to God to remain on this earth because you do have purpose. You have purpose, and you're not sure what it is yet maybe, and maybe you're feeling like crap and you feel like you're in a dark place, but I promise you, you have it, and it is your duty to find it. It is. You know, veterans need a mission, and mine was continued service in Congress, but that may not be everyone's mission, and I don't wish that hell upon anybody, really. I mean, I enjoy it because I like pain, I guess, but you know, that mission may be helping other veterans. It may be becoming a carpenter. It may be a parent or a teacher. And when they become that, they want to be the best damn carpenter, parent, or a teacher in the world. Living with purpose is living to be the best, living to be relevant. The task itself doesn't have to be that relevant, but the way you pursue that task must be 110%. And that concept is very familiar to veterans. If you're going to clean out that latrine, you're going to do it better than anyone else ever has. So I don't think veterans, I don't think they want to be coddled. The majority just want a path to success that they can build on their own. Organizations like this are a critical part of that goal. I think what Mighty Oaks does is so important because it's an escape, and it's faith-based, and that is crucial. I've personally been through programs like it, and they saved me. You know, I was blown up in June of 2012, and I went to a month-long kind of, I think, a forcing function type therapy in March of 2013. And it saves you because it forces you to think about what your purpose is, forces you to think about what your problems are and the potential solutions to that problem. And I love programs that do that, and it's heartwarming to hear that there's so much support for something like Mighty Oaks that does that exact same thing. You know, when I was taking pictures earlier, somebody mentioned that they do equine therapy for a lot of vets. And I think that's awesome. I love riding horses. It's great. But I do have a story about equine therapy. And I don't mean this as a criticism of equine therapy. I'm just saying this one time it didn't work out for me that well. So in that program that I was just telling you about, it's called NICO, by the way. It's for active duty. It's not for veterans. But I got the choice to go ride horses one day, and I was really excited about it. I have a feeling, by the way, equine therapy in Texas is much better than it is in Bethesda, Maryland. Yeah. So let me tell you this. So my eyes don't work very well, and they worked pretty poorly back then because I hadn't figured things out yet. My eyes were still my eye was still sensitive, still trying to find the right contacts to wear. I was always irritated. It was a mess. Couldn't see that well. And you know, they offered me to go ride horses, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm envisioning, you know, the way I know riding horses, which is, you know, riding a horse through some beautiful pastures or hill country or whatever it is. And that's what I envisioned in my one crappy eye. And so we go. And the first thing they have us do is clean the horses. So cleaning a horse with a brush means you're basically beating all the dirt off of the horse, which is really bad if you have a sensitive eye that is prone to dust and dirt, or sensitive to dust and dirt. So that wasn't really great. So we got through that. I was pretty upset about that. And then we get to learn for an hour how to turn the horse right in a barn. I'm like, I'm from Texas. I know how to turn a horse right over and over and over again. So we did that. And then we got to walk the horse down a concrete sidewalk for another hour. All right, I know. It was not great, but I'm not bashing equine therapy. I think it's great. Just the other, not too long ago, we went horseback riding up in North Washington State, and it was absolutely amazing. So I love it. I think it's awesome. Just don't do it the way they do it in Bethesda, please. This is the thing, like how do we help veterans? What's the right way? There's a lot of well-intentioned VSOs. There's literally thousands. There's no shortage of resources for veterans these days. I truly believe that. The problem is, how do you connect veterans with the right resources? How do we differentiate between them? It's kind of overwhelming for a veteran when they come out of the service. Here in Houston, we have something called Combined Arms. And I think that's amazing. You can go to Combined Arms and you tell them your problem and they instantly connect you with the right people. Maybe it's Mighty Oaks, maybe it's the Travis Manion Foundation, maybe it's something else. I've been helped by VSOs. The Navy SEAL Foundation would provide me with contact solution. I've spent hundreds of dollars on contact solution every month. They don't provide it to me anymore, but they used to. Because the VA wouldn't and active duty wouldn't. Because why would you? Why would you give people a contact solution? That's your own fault. It's your genetics. But I fall through the cracks because I have a bad eye simply because I got blown up by a bomb. I know, super sensitive, kind of a wimp, but that's why I need it. VSOs are there to fill that gap. Or they're just there to give you a simple escape and help you clear the mind and recenter. Like Mighty Oaks is. The work you do, it changes lives. And I know that from my own experience. The people you're helping could become the next congressman, the next CEO, or the next scientist to cure cancer. If they're a Marine, they might invent the next flavor of crayons. Marines are crazy. Happy birthday, guys, by the way. Yeah. "244 years of knife hands." They're in the Air Force. They might become the next PGA champion. And if they're a Navy SEAL, they might become the next big Hollywood actor. Vets have everything to offer this world, and it's our job to make sure they know that and help them fulfill that potential. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of that journey. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Chad Robichaux.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here. Thank you again, Congressman, for the amazing talk tonight and just for being here with us and continuing to serve not only our country, but our warriors and your brothers who have served so much for us. Guys, it's absolutely amazing to be standing up here and looking at this room. If you just take a look around, for those of you who have been here from the beginning, this is incredible. I'm blown away. Thank you all for being here. And for those who have been here from the beginning, thanks for continuing to believe in the mission that God has put in the hearts of us for Mighty Oaks and for American warriors and their families. Who's here for the first time? Wow, thank you guys so much for coming. So because you're here for the first time, it's my job tonight to inform you and introduce you to Mighty Oaks as an organization. And I have and probably always will do that by telling you where we started. Because I believe our history is at the core of who we are and how we function as an organization. Many of you may know or may not know, I'm not only the founder of Mighty Oaks, but I was the first student or first warrior to go through and be served by this methodology that we use. I was a Marine, as Congressman made fun of, but but you always make fun of the best. That's kind of how it goes. But so not only was I a Marine, but I'm from a 3-generation Marine Corps family. My father was a Marine, and he was an infantry Marine and served in Vietnam. I was a force reconnaissance Marine. I did 8 deployments to Afghanistan, and my son Hunter is a Marine in Anglico. He's actually in Afghanistan. And yes. And right now, tonight is a super special night for me because he's been in Afghanistan for almost a year, and he's standing by on a runway waiting to get on a plane to come home tonight. So yes. I know a lot of you guys have been praying for him and for his unit, and I'm so thankful for those prayers as parents. I always never really thought much of what it would be like to send a child to combat. But then I realized not only am I a parent sending my child to combat, but I know way too much. From my own experience and from the work that we do at Mighty Oaks, I knew way too much. And this was my 9th deployment for me. And I tell you, it was the hardest of all 9 of those deployments was to have him out there. But thankfully, he's coming home and coming home safely. And we're just so proud of him. But one of the things about my son coming home from combat that I want to share with you guys is I don't have a lot of fear or worry. I had fear or worry about him and being in combat and his physical safety, but I don't possess a fear of him coming home and facing some of these problems that we're talking about tonight. Because I've been able to invest in him because of my own experience and experience at Mighty Oaks, we would call resiliency. His preparedness to be able to go and see and do the things he had to see and do, and he did see combat there. He was not tucked away in a base. He saw combat. He was involved in some things that he'll probably have to reconcile. But I believe because of the resiliency we instilled in him, through the pillars of resiliency, through being mentally tough, physically tough, being in a good social network, knowing what kind of friends to surround himself by in the good times and bad, and having a spiritual foundation, I am confident that he's going to come home about to bounce back. He's going to move forward and be successful in his transition. And one of my favorite things to do at Mighty Oaks is our resiliency program. We've spoken over 100,000 warriors, about 130,000 warriors. I get to go to places like Marine Corps Boot Camp. And now, for those who follow us, General Heritage is over all of Marine Corps Boot Camp, has made it mandatory for every Marine Corps recruit to hear me, have to endure me talk to them and tell them about resiliency and spiritual resiliency. And it's an absolute honor because I was one of only 2, myself and a Marine named Phil Downer were the only 2 allowed to do that. So it's a real privilege to do it, and I take it very seriously because I believe that if with the right principles, with the right spiritual pillars and foundational pillars of resiliency, that these warriors will not struggle if they're prepared the right way in the front end. And so we're able to participate in that. But me, and like my many other warriors, I didn't go with those pillars. I had some of them. I was mentally tough. Just ask me, like I would have told you I was mentally tough. I was super motivated. I believed I was the toughest person on the battlefield, which I think everyone going on the battlefield should believe that. I was physically tough. I was prepared. And I had a good social network, that 4th pillar of social. But I didn't have a strong spiritual foundation. And I believe that almost cost me everything deploying. And when I came home from my 8th deployment, I faced many of the things that many of our warriors face who we serve at Mighty Oaks. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I suffered from very severe panic attacks. Not just anxiety. I mean, like plastic bag over your face and hands tied behind your back level of panic on a daily basis. And I went down a downward spiral for a period of about 3 years that ended with me being alone in an apartment, facing a divorce with my family, and a pistol in my hand, trying to decide whether I wanted to live or die. And I had made a pretty firm choice that I was going to take my life. And on the other side of that, there were many steps to move forward and get out of that situation. But the most profound step of all those was the discipleship of a man here, and you guys met him tonight. He did the introduction, Steve Toth, who introduced me to a relationship with Christ. And I made a decision through his mentorship to align my life with the life that I believe I was created to live. A life of purpose, a new mission. And that purpose moving forward, it radically changed me. And I had a deep desire inside of me to share it with others. And that was the beginning of Mighty Oaks. That purpose, that new purpose through the restoration that I had in my life and my marriage and my own brokenness, the hope that I had for the first time in a very long time. And that purpose that I found was something that I knew I had to share with others. It was like when I was going through these dark moments, the darkest moments, I felt like I was the only one. I was all alone. Like no one could feel the way I feel. No one could feel as low as I felt, as hopeless as I felt, as so hopeless that you Actually, you go from just wanting to die, you like, I'm not going to kill myself, but I want to die. Maybe I'll get in a car accident. Having that feeling every day to where you actually decided, like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to tell people. I'm not going to try to get help or cry for help. I'm going to keep it in my own little silo, and I'm going to execute on this. I thought I was the only one that felt that way. But on the other side, coming out of that fog, I realized that I not only was not the only one, but people were worse off than me, to the point that they were taking their life at a rate of 22 a day, every single day. 22. We throw that number around a lot. People do push-ups for it, wear T-shirts and stuff like that. When you really pause to think about the number 22 every single day, it's horrific. I mean, every hour, the 2 hours that we'll be here, that's going to happen. And you think about the families and the loved ones, the wives and the children, the husbands of the female veterans, and how the children have to carry. You know, there's a statistic that says 1 in 3 children from a parent that commits suicide will do it themselves. The exponential impact that happens with that. When I started realizing that I wasn't the only one and other people had suffered with this, I knew there was a very big problem. It was like I woke up out of a dream that this is a big problem, and someone's got to do something about it. And God really put a burden on my heart. Why not me? And so Mighty Oaks was formed. Not just to help veterans. I didn't just want to help veterans. Me and Congressman Crenshaw and Jeremy and our whole team believe that we should never have a program that's like a coddle a vet program. Like, hey, thank you for your service. Let me give you a quilt and some cookies. But we love quilts and cookies, by the way. But those things don't change our problems. I have a friend that's in the room right now. He runs an organization called Veterans Outdoors. Great organization. They take veterans hunting and fishing, and he'll be the first to tell you those things, while they're fun for the veterans to do, and we should do those things for our veterans, they're not going to change their situation. Veterans don't need to be coddled and told, thank you for your service. They need to be told, hey, you're better than this. Get up again. Get back in the fight. Get back to doing something purposeful again. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to share what I discovered with others. I wanted to challenge them to be the leaders that I knew they could be, to be the men and women that I knew they could be, to be the fathers and mothers and parents and friends that I knew they could be, and to take the lessons that they learned and to pay it forward to the next guy. The Bible calls this discipleship. Jesus said to us, go forth and make disciples of all. And that's what we're doing at Mighty Oaks. We're building disciples and teaching people how not to just get well, but how to be in a position to help the next guy. The obedience that we had to that call that I felt God put on my heart 9 years ago, I'm very happy to say, while we see the success of a fancy room like this, and you guys had some, I didn't get a chance to eat it, but it looks like some pretty killer chicken, right? We might look at this and say, wow, man, we're a successful organization. This isn't what a success is. I wish we could do this on paper plates, but it takes some more than paper plates to get you guys here. The success happens when we get the chance to sit in the trenches with these warriors at our ranches. And we've been so blessed to impact the lives of tens of thousands in our military community. Why Mighty Oaks? Why does Mighty Oaks exist? VSO, I heard Congressman Crenshaw say VSO. The word VSO means Veteran Service Organization. That's what it stands for. There's about 43,000 veteran service organizations in America, a lot of them. So why do they even need to exist? Most of them are very well intended. I would say some of them are scams, unfortunately. Some of them are great. There's a lot of great VSOs. But why do VSOs need to exist? We have a VA. We have a Veterans Affairs Office. We have a DOD, Department of Defense. In fact, those are the two biggest organizations in our nation, two biggest government organizations, the Department of Defense and the VA. So why would an organization like Mighty Oaks have to exist to do this work? Because if I could tell you where this really started, was about 20 years ago when 9/11 happened, when those Twin Towers fell down. We went to war. And we have been at war for almost 20 years now, and it's been the longest time in our history of our nation that we've been at war, and our warriors are paying the price. We have a very small percentage of our population, less than 0.5%, participating in those wars. And the deployment after deployment, I did 8. I mean, some people have done 14. I talked to one PJ that did 21 deployments. They're burnt out. About 4 years into that, the VA and DOD realized that we had a problem. We had a suicide problem. And the rate at that time was 16 suicides a day, which is a big deal, 16 a day. And thankfully, they said, we have to do something about it. And so they started programs. They started 1,200, over the last 15 years, the DOD and VA have stood up 1,200 programs, all clinical programs. And the last 15 years of them doing that, we went from 16 suicides a day to 22 a day The most current VA report is 20 a day, which I don't believe that report is accurate because only half of the states report. So we don't know what the number is. 1 a day is too many. But the point is, in the last 15 years, from 16 to 22, the problem has gotten worse. They stood up 1,200 programs, clinical programs, and spent billions of dollars, billions of taxpayers' dollars, and the problem has gotten worse. So why the problem get worse? In fact, if you look at the suicide rate and you break down the number at 22, really think about it for a second. That's 7,300 a year. A year. Since the war on terror began, that's 140,000 of our men and women who serve in uniform have died, not on the battlefield, but by their own hand, taking their life. Last year, the Marine Corps reported that they had the worst active duty suicide rate in history. The problem before was more on the veteran side. Now it's increasing on the active duty side. The Marine Corps had the worst year last year in history. The Special Operations Command, their active duty suicide rate last year quadrupled from 1 a day to 4 a day, quadrupled last year. Last month, there was an article that came out by the United States Air Force said the number one cause of death for active duty airmen, guess what it is? Suicide. It's unsatisfactory. These programs that have been stood up and the billions of dollars spent have failed our warriors. Now there's great people in the VA and there's great people in the DOD. The VA has some great people that work there. But these programs are failing. And the reason they're failing is simple, because they're targeting the mind and the body, but they're missing the most important and the unseen wound of the soul. See, combat creates a spiritual wound that only has one remedy, and they will not do what needs to be done. They're not going to do it. And organizations like Mighty Oaks has to stand in a gap and solve the problem. They're aiming at the wrong target, they're shooting at the wrong target, and they're always going to miss because they're not aiming at the right thing. This is a spiritual wound, and there's only one way that you're going to heal a spiritual wound, right? You can heal a person's body, you can heal their mind with the best doctors and best medicine, but until you heal someone's soul, they're never truly going to be well. And that one way is through a relationship with Christ and aligning your life to the life that you were created to live. And they may not do it and they may not say it, but we will. We'll both say it and we'll do it. And a lot of people, some people may be here and say, well, you might not believe what we believe. You might came here and not even realize Mighty Oaks was a Christian organization. I can tell you that a lot of the military commands that send people on active duty orders to Mighty Oaks do not agree with us either. They don't believe in what we believe, but they had tried everything else and nothing worked. And so they're like, hey, we have a saying at Mighty Oaks, if what you're doing isn't working, why not try something different? They send them to us. They don't agree with us. They don't believe in it. They're not Christians. In fact, about half of the people that show up in our program would consider themselves atheists or agnostic, or they hate God. We had a Satanist recently who came, and he said, man, I think I'm at the wrong program because I don't believe what you guys believe. And our team leader, Kevin, said, oh, well, it's okay. You can stay here. You don't have to believe what we believe. He said, no, I do believe what you guys believe. I'm just on the other team. I'm in a Satanist church. He had 666 tattooed on him, and he decided to stay for the week because the food's good and we're going to have fun. And at the end of the week, he got baptized. It's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So, again, the military and many of our warriors, they come to our program. They don't agree with what we do, but they're looking for hope, and they need hope to move forward, and we're able to provide that to them. This isn't just my opinion of the success of Mighty Oaks. We recently had a third party. One of the things that Christian programs have really struggled to build their case is they don't have data. And that was us. We said, hey, our program is great. We're helping so many people, but we didn't have the data. And the government wants to see data. So we did a 3-year independent doctoral study. It's called a longitudinal data study. It's kind of a big word. I'm so happy I said it right. But we had somebody way smarter than me who was doing his doctorates, and so it's totally independent of us. And he took a series of guys who graduated our program over a period of 3 years, and he studied their progress. And I could give you all the data and detailed numbers, but we'd be here all night. But the conclusion of it all is that we did great. Not only did we do great, but we outperformed clinical trials. I mean, we did better than medicine does. Surprise, right? So those results are going to be pretty amazing for us as an organization. We're one of the first organizations of our kind to have results and data like that. And it's resulted in several things. One of the things that it's resulting in is we're going to go, Jeremy Stolnecker, our executive director, and myself, are going to be going to Washington, D.C. on December 11th. We're going to be testifying before Congress on faith-based solutions for post-traumatic stress, mental health, and veterans care. And so where the government has failed as an institution, organizations like Mighty Oaks and Mighty Oaks has brought that solution to the table, and we've been able to connect it to our veterans. And this has also created a kind of an unprecedented access to veterans. Again, we don't just get veterans from the veteran community. We get active duty military from all 4 branches that come in orders to us. And it's created a tremendous demand for our programs. We do the resiliency program. We speak to tens of thousands of people on bases around the world. Jeremy spoke in Ukraine this year. I spoke in Germany. We both spoke in Germany, Peru. We're speaking to military people all around the world. And we get more and more requests from active duty commands that are asking us. Every week we get new requests from a different command saying, hey, will you come and speak about resiliency to our warriors? I just spoke to 8th Marines before they left for their deployment. I spoke to about 1,200 active duty Marines who were leaving for combat. I got to speak to them right before they left off. It's amazing. And then in our legacy program, which Jeremy's going to tell you a little bit more about later tonight, our legacy program is our core program where we bring people, we have 32 weeks a year that we bring them to our ranches, and we bring them through this intensive combat trauma program. We have 1,585 applications pending to come to that program. The demand is huge. We have another 150 rolling in every month for people wanting to come to this program. Why? Because after 20 years of war, it's still going. Our veterans are suffering. Our veteran community is suffering. And there's a very big problem out there, and no one wants to talk about it. The news cycle's covered with politics. No matter what you choose, I'm sure I'd say CNN or Fox, but I think I know this room leans towards. But no matter what you choose, right? You get on there, and the news cycle's clogged up with politics, and we can't talk about the real problems. It's a big problem. But while it's a big problem, the good news is that we have a solution. And tonight, each of us get to be part of that solution. That's what fundraisers like tonight's for. It's not to eat that good chicken. It's to come here and raise the resources it takes to get these warriors to our program. It costs us $2,500 to get a warrior to our program because we pay for everything. There's no cost to them at all, including travel. It doesn't matter where they live. We even flew someone from overseas before. It doesn't matter where they live. We're going to get them there and take out all the obstacles because people like you are willing to come on a Saturday night and open your checkbooks and make it happen. That's the part of the process that we're playing in this tonight. And I've literally have seen thousands of lives literally saved. Lives saved. The best part of my job is when we get the letters from the wife, like, you saved my husband's life, or from a kid, like, thank you for having my daddy back. That's the best part of my job, is getting those incredible letters. And as Chad said tonight, we're not going to have any reservations in letting you guys know tonight the goal is to raise money. And when we started this event, and I seen the event sold out, and by the way, it did sell out, so next year, tell your friends to get tickets sooner. And you guys get tickets sooner, and I promise we'll have a bigger room next year. We'll pack it out. Can we agree on that? Right. But while tonight is a fundraiser, sometimes we get caught up in the money of it. Like, our goal, $1 million, sounds like I pulled a number out of a hat and said, we're going to raise $1 million. Like, it's not about, if it would cost $10 to do what we do, I'd be good with $10. But the deal is we have 850 beds next year to do it for our legacy program. So tonight, every dollar we raise goes into our scholarship fund, not to our overhead. Every dollar we raise goes in our scholarship fund, and we're gonna fund warriors to go to that program. And I thought, hey, tonight, with 650 people here, we could raise half of our scholarship budget. I still believe, even halfway through the night, I still believe we could do that. I don't know if anybody else believes that with me. I'm kind of crazy with goals sometimes, but I believe that we could do that. That's because, you have to sit where I sit sometimes and get to see this. This isn't just 400, this isn't just 400 people. This is 400 warriors that served our country and are struggling because of their service to our country. The reason we get to sit here in a place like this and eat a meal like you got to eat is because of these warriors, right? And they paid an ultimate price. Some of them have lost their friends in that price, and some of them are struggling to even stay alive right now. And we have a duty to see them get home. And I don't care if the government's going to do it or not. We get mad at the government and say the VA should do it and the government should do it, and it doesn't change anything. We could do it. We could do it here tonight. We could change 400 warriors. We could save 400 lives. We could change 400 legacies. We could restore 400 families. And we could change 400 eternities forever. And who knows the exponential impact of that? Maybe the next Dan Crenshaw will be in our group, or maybe the next Billy Graham. would be in our group. We don't know. I can tell you that it's so cool to see guys leave our program, go off. We have a guy in here, I don't know if he's here tonight, Joey Malas, who came through our program. Never heard from him again. I'm like, man, the guy's not staying in touch with us. Like, he must have really hated us. Turns around, he's got a ministry taking veterans. He goes twice a year, takes veterans to Israel. He started a ministry out of our Armor of God, or Army of God, I think. Army of God. He's a Marine. He called it Army. I don't know why, but it's an awesome mission, though. He's taking veterans to Israel twice a year, and he just came through our program, and that guy was like headed downwards in such a downward trajectory, and then turned it around and doing stuff for the community, doing stuff for the veteran community, and doing stuff for the kingdom and changing people's eternities. So yeah, there remains a big problem. This is a really big deal. 22 suicides a day is terrible, and the 80% divorce rate on different bases, and the 30% of people that go to combat that are struggling with PTSD. It's a big problem. But through Mighty Oaks and through each person here tonight, we could bring the solution to the table. And I believe we could do that. I'm challenging you to do that. I get told I'm crazy when I set goals sometimes. And I set that goal for this, and maybe I am crazy, but there's a lot of goals I set for Mighty Oaks that have looked crazy. But one thing I learned from being part of Mighty Oaks is when you're never gonna achieve anything big unless you put big goals out there, and I've seen God do the absolute impossible through this organization, and just been blown away by the miracles I've seen happen, and I believe that could happen here again tonight, because when God's in control, and He's in control of Mighty Oaks, it's His ministry, it's His program, and He's going to bring the resources together, and He's going to use people like you to do it. And so thank you. And on behalf of Kathy, my wife, right here in the front row, if you can't find her, just look for their hair. On behalf of Kathy and myself, I'm just so thankful for each of you for just believing in us, believing in the mission of Mighty Oaks, and continuing to lock arms with us as we move forward. Lots of work still to be done, and I can promise you I'm not stopping, and Kathy's not either. And I can tell you on behalf of our team, we're not stopping. We're just getting started. We're going to solve this thing, and we're going to keep bringing that solution to the table. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Be praying for us. And Jeremy Stolnecker.
If you're watching on YouTube and you have not yet subscribed, subscribe. A lot of content comes onto here, not just our show, but a lot of stuff we put on here. And I would love for you to participate in that. Hit the notification bell. That lets you know when new content comes online. And that would be great for you to keep track of that. The show, of course, comes on every Friday morning at 10 Pacific time, but we've got a lot of stuff going on around that. If you're listening on Mojo or listening on the podcast or some other place, go ahead, make your way over to YouTube and check that out as well. We're thankful for our partners. We've got so many great folks partnering with us. We're thankful for them, but I'd encourage you to step over to YouTube as well and check that out. Thanks for being with us. Look forward to spending this time with you next time we're together.